In yet another setback to President Obama, it appears the Supreme Court decision against his contraception mandate may affect a lot more people than everyone thought. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Doug McKelway in for Brett Baer. The news just keeps getting worse for a president now on a significant losing streak in the nation's high court. One day after striking down some of the Obamacare rules on birth control coverage, the Supreme Court piled on, clarifying its ruling and setting up new questions about its health care system's future. We have Fox team coverage, Ed Henry at the White House, with a more defiant than ever President Obama. Jim Angle in the Bureau looks at major problems with the way Obamacare does or does not get its facts straight. But we begin with Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel and the expansion of the ruling against Obamacare. Good evening, Mike.
Well, Doug, good evening. The Supreme Court today clarified yesterday's monumental ruling, which said that closely held corporations cannot be required to provide 4 challenged methods of birth control that plaintiffs said were in violation of their religious beliefs. Today's order remanded 3 cases involving Catholics who oppose all methods of contraception back to the lower courts to be reconsidered based on yesterday's decision. Other cases, such as the one brought by Hercules Industry, Inc. of Colorado, are still waiting pending resolution in light of the court's ruling.
We're very gratified with the Supreme Court that says that businesses are people and corporations are people. They're not mindless, faceless entity that can operate any other way.
Hercules Industries is a Denver-based family-owned heating, ventilation, and air conditioning manufacturer with about 300 employees. It was among about 50 lawsuits from corporations that object to the contraceptive coverage requirement. The justices did not comment, but left in place lower court rulings favoring businesses that objected to the birth control mandate.
Our laws protect religious freedom. You can't have an administration creating one-size-fits-all laws and trampling on religious beliefs.
Newland says his family didn't want to choose between complying with the law and deserting their faith or resisting and being punished by the government.
So we're created in the likeness of image of God, and it begins with sanctity of life, the fertilization of the egg in the womb, and it goes all the way through the way we treat our employees in the workplace, the health care benefits that we provide, the retirement benefits, the compensation, everything.
This comes just a day after the Hobby Lobby case, when in a 5-4 opinion, the Supreme Court sided with 2 for-profit corporations, holding that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act protects them from forced compliance with a government demand the families say directly conflicts with their most deeply held religious beliefs. The founders of the Hobby Lobby craft store chain, the Green family, fought for more than a year and a half against the government mandate requiring them to provide their employees free access to 20 forms of birth control. That includes 4 methods the family believes can trigger abortions, something they refuse to do. A constitutional expert says the court had to strike a balance between the rights of employers and their employees.
This may be the best practical compromise that could have been reached. It's not a total win for everybody or for anybody on either side. It's right down the middle.
Those behind these lawsuits say the government has a lot of other ways to make sure that women have contraceptive coverage without forcing family business owners to violate their faith. Aides to some leading Hill Democrats say they are developing a legislative response. Doug?
Thank you, Mike. The court is now done for the summer, but it is laying out its fall agenda now. It has agreed to hear one case involving a whistleblower lawsuit against a construction company accused of falsely billing the government for work in Iraq. Another is a pregnancy discrimination suit from a delivery driver at UPS who was refused a light duty assignment. Well, if President Obama is discouraged by the recent high court decisions, he is certainly not showing it. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry tells us the president is proceeding with his agenda full speed ahead.
Despite getting his wings clipped on a series of Supreme Court decisions over executive power, President Obama is not changing course, instead doubling down on the go-it-alone strategy, daring Speaker John Boehner to go through with his lawsuit aimed at blocking executive orders.
Boehner sued me for this. Middle-class families can't wait for Republicans in Congress to do stuff. So sue me.
White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest made clear that includes possible executive action to expand contraception coverage for women in the wake of the defeat the Supreme Court handed the president in the Hobby Lobby case.
If Congress won't act, the president will consider a range of options for addressing this problem.
A reversal for the president, who repeatedly said everyone should just move on after a 5-4 Supreme Court decision deemed his health care law constitutional.
The Supreme Court has spoken. We are implementing it. It is helping families all across this nation. We are moving forward. The Supreme Court ruled it constitutional. It was a central issue in last year's election. It is settled, and it is here to stay.
Now, Democrats see this court decision as a golden opportunity to rally their base ahead of the midterm elections and set it up as a wedge issue in 2016, which Hillary Clinton quickly did last night in the battleground state of Colorado, as she reacted to the Hobby Lobby decision by comparing it to what she saw as she traveled the globe as Secretary of State.
You watch women and girls being deprived of their rights. Some of them never have them. Some of them lose them. And among those rights is control over their bodies, control over their own health care, control over the size of their families.
Earnest also signaled today there may be some pre-election executive action on immigration reform, saying the president has directed Attorney General Eric Holder and Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson to identify actions he can take on his own to fix the immigration system. That review is due by the end of summer, right before the midterm elections, leading conservatives to wonder about the political motives.
The Supreme Court ruling, I would have thought, would have humbled the president, maybe make him think twice about possible executive overreach.
At a cabinet meeting today, the president made clear he's devising new ways to go around the GOP.
We're going to have to be creative about how we can make real progress.
Now, the president said he believes a majority of the public agrees with him on this issue, but in a recent Fox poll, we asked whether this is how government is supposed to work. 23% said yes, 74% said no. Doug?
Ed Henry on the North Lawn. Thank you, Ed. It appears Obamacare could use some better record keeping. The president's health care system is said to be having some major problems fact-checking applications. Chief National Correspondent Jim Angle tells us tonight that could affect coverage for millions of people.
The watchdog for Obamacare implementation at Health and Human Services said today it found the federal marketplace was incapable of resolving 2.6 million of 2.9 million inconsistencies in applications for health care, including income levels used to determine subsidies.
All of the checks that were in place to try to make sure that only correct subsidies would be paid are not functioning, and so lots of money is being paid out and people aren't quite sure if it's accurate or not.
That was through the end of February. In a separate audit, a House committee announced today it found 4 million inconsistencies through the end of May. Defenders of the law say that's understandable.
I think for some people it's very difficult. I mean, the number is for a family of 4. They provide 21 different pieces of information when they fill out the applications.
The White House minimized the problem, saying they can be quite simple.
If you signed up on the website as Chris Jansing to apply for health insurance, it may ping some government records that indicate that your first name is actually Christine. That would be what is described by the Inspector General as an inconsistency.
But getting the right answers isn't easy.
It's certainly something that's going to take some time. They have a whole process where they first send you contact through the mail, then they email you, then they call you.
The whole process is complicated because any number of changes can affect the amount of subsidy a family should get.
Many people change jobs, resulting in gains or losses of income. Many people receive differences in compensation, again, up or down. Many people experience differences in real or expected overtime.
Or get married or divorced or have children. And once the money's out the door, it may be hard to get back, especially from low-income Americans.
When a taxpayer has been overpaid like this, and they're not really owing a lot of taxes anyway, sometimes it's very difficult to recoup the money later.
Then HHS Secretary Sebelius assured Congress months ago a verification process was in place, but that didn't happen. Some analysts say it'll all work out. Others fear chaos at tax filing time in 2015 when many people find out they have to pay back money they shouldn't have gotten in the first place. Doug?
All right. Thank you, Jim. U.S. manufacturing grew in June for the 13th straight month. That and optimism about the just begun third quarter led to a big day on Wall Street. The Dow hit an all-time high before finishing ahead 129.5 for a record close. The S&P 500 gained 13, NASDAQ up 50.5. And hundreds of thousands of Team USA soccer fans are still gathered all over the country right now, watching today's knockout round match between the Americans and Belgium. This is a live picture of a watch party at Freedom Plaza right here in Washington. Belgium scored early in extra time, and it leads right now 1-0. That might explain the subdued mood. Their time is running out. Coming up next, Israel says Hamas will pay for the death of 3 teenagers. We'll talk about how. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates are covering tonight. Fox 2 in Detroit, where a soccer referee who was punched during a match Sunday has now died. The referee was working an adult league match when he was attacked by a player. A 36-year-old man has been charged. Fox 32 in Chicago now, where some people had to walk to O'Hare Airport because of storm-related flooding on Interstate 90. Many cars became stuck in the water, and travelers missed their flights. One ramp was closed for about 4.5 hours. And this is a live look at Miami from Fox affiliate WSVN. The big story there tonight, preparations for the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. Tropical Storm Arthur formed today off the state's central coast. Forecasters believe it will just stay offshore and turn to the north and east into Wednesday. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.